You've been doing 4 to 5 WODs per week for the last 3 to 5 years, and now you're getting into Hyrox. Or maybe it's vice versa, or you're doing both. This is going to be how to fuel differently for CrossFit versus Hyrox Nutrition Edition. We're going to go over number one, how you fuel properly and get the body composition results that you want when you're training for CrossFit versus when you're training for Hyrox. Then we're going to go into a little bit about the competition side. So if you have a CrossFit competition versus when you're doing an actual Hyrox race, what are the differences that you need to perform well, fuel properly, and reach your body recomposition goals, which of course is going to help with any performance because we're losing fat and building muscle at the same exact time. Now, before we get going, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Over 50% of you that watch the videos here on the CBG Nutrition channel are not subscribed, and so you're not getting notified when we put out free content and videos like this so you can reach your goals 5 times faster. Let's get into it. The first thing I want to go over is the differences between Hyrox versus CrossFit. What are the differences from a training perspective from week to week? And then we'll get into the competition side. Now, when it comes to a Hyrox actual training session, these training sessions are typically longer. Now, I know we go to our box for an hour. We're typically doing strength training and we're doing a Metcon that usually falls within the 10-minute to 20-minute range, maybe even less. When it comes to Hyrox, most training sessions are going to be 30 minutes plus. And so therefore, your total activity level is higher. We'll get into a little bit more about that in a minute, but that is super, super important to remember. For CrossFit, we're doing higher intensity, but we are typically doing lower volume. And therefore, overall, we are burning less calories. So let's get into the nutritional protocols I would use differently for CrossFit versus Hyrox. Number one, you're going to need to be on higher calories when you're doing Hyrox training versus when you're doing CrossFit. Your total daily energy expenditure is higher when you're training for Hyrox because your duration of actual activity and work is longer. Now, when it comes to CrossFit, there's the aerobic capacity piece, the strength piece, and the gymnastics piece. With Hyrox, it's more aerobic threshold training and a little bit of muscular endurance. Obviously, the format through a Hyrox is 8 standardized stations with 1K runs in between. The longest sessions we usually do as CrossFitters is Murph, which happens once per year. We typically don't do Metcons that are any longer than 30 to 40 minutes. Of course, the duration being 60 to 90 minutes for Hyrox in your training is something definitely to consider. And then your output is high volume aerobic and muscular endurance, whereas CrossFit, it's a mixed output, anaerobic, strength, and aerobic as well. So everything's kind of mixed into there. And so there's a lot more constantly varied components in the CrossFit side than the Hyrox side. So the first thing we need to address, and we're going to go through every macro here, is the calories. If you think about this in the way that we actually program our nutritional blueprints for people here at CBG, is we basically start with a formula, and that formula is very close to the following equation. You're going to take your body weight in pounds and you're going to multiply it by 14. That's the total number of calories that we recommend people take in per day that are doing 4 to 5 watts per week. Now, for Hyrox, it's going to be higher. It's going to be 15 to 16 times your body weight in pounds to get your total calories per day. Now, let's get into the protein side as well as the carbs, the fat side, and then supplements. And then we'll get into competition. When it comes to actual protein, you're going to stay around the same for both. You're going to want to be around the same amount of protein. It's important for muscle recovery, and it's still the most important macro regardless of what sport you're training in. Now, it is very, very important to understand we need somewhere between 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of protein. Very easy. When it comes to carbohydrates, it's going to be different. For CrossFit, you're going to be thinking about taking in anywhere between 1.5 to 2 grams per pound of body weight. With Hyrox, you're going to be looking to take anywhere between 2 to 2.75 grams per pound of body weight. Carbohydrates are our primary fuel source for both. However, you're going to get your glycogen depleted more and quicker through doing Hyrox workouts than you are doing Metcons at your box. And so you need higher carbohydrates when you're doing Hyrox training than when you're doing CrossFit. When it comes to fats, lower fat if you're doing Hyrox and a little bit higher fat if you're doing CrossFit. With the strength training, we want recovery from the CNS, but you don't want your fats too low. What I would recommend is your body weight in pounds, multiply that by 0.5 to get your total fat if you're doing CrossFit, and I would multiply it by 0.35 if you're doing Hyrox. It's going to be a little bit less doing Hyrox. You can make up on the carbohydrate side, and that's how you would get your macronutrient profile and distribution depending on how you're training between between the two sports. If this is something you struggle with, like you don't know how to actually plan your day when it comes to your timing and how much you need of each, and you need accountability figuring that out, you can click the link below in the description. You can learn more about what me and my team do to help CrossFitters and Hyroxers quit tracking macros and reach their goals. Click that link. You can learn more, see if we're a good fit to work together. Now, I want to get into a little bit of the intra-workout and fueling for this. Training-wise, you want 60 to 70 your carbs around your training session, but this is even more important when it comes to Hyrox, meaning you're going to take in 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates in the actual session that you're doing. Super, super important. So don't forget to add in the intra side, and that's maybe where that little bit of extra carbohydrates comes from when you're training for Hyrox and in general doing longer duration sessions, so you can actually sustain your session throughout and not completely crash in the middle of it. That's the big difference when it comes to carbohydrate timing between the two sports. Next is going to be supplements. On the CrossFit side, you're going to be focusing on creatine, beta-alanine, fish oil, and magnesium. On the Hyrox side, it's going to be electrolytes, intra-workout carbs, creatine, and beetroot juice. Of course, beta-alanine as well, but beetroot juice I'm throwing in there as well for supplements Hyrox-wise. That's going to be the difference in supplements between the two sports. Next, I want to go over fueling for an actual race versus a CrossFit competition. The main difference here is the Hyrox is one event. You go there, you do one event, you're done. CrossFit competitions, multiple events in a day or even over multiple days, which is the main significant difference. For Hyrox, you're going to carb load 2 days in advance. For CrossFit, you're going to do it 3 days in advance. Why? Because you're getting prepared for more events with a competition on the CrossFit side than the Hyrox side. Now, you need to make sure you have this very similar breakfast that you usually have. You don't need to change anything drastic or add any foods that are different from what you're used to eating or any new supplements than you're used to taking. When it comes to the Hyrox side, I would add 30 to 50 grams of pre-workout carbohydrates before the race starts. Then you're going to want to bring gels and other things that are easily transportable and on the race day with you on your person so you can incorporate those intra-workout carbohydrates. For your CrossFit competition, you can have pre-workout carbs, but you're not going to be able to get in intra because you're doing an event and it's going to be very difficult. And so therefore you need to prioritize protein and carbs after each event. I may do a separate video on actual competition and building out an actual plan for some of you guys, like what foods to eat, how much of each thing. And so I can go into things with more detail, but these are some generalized guidelines I would be focused on if you have a race coming up or a competition coming up. Well, that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. If you're interested in learning more about what we do to help people lose fat, build muscle, and actually look like they work out, click the link below in the description. You could chat with me, somebody from my team, see if it's a good fit, and YouTube wants you to watch this video next.